Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino, and today I have a special guest. His name is Kute Blackson. Hey, Kute, how are you?
Great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So before we get started, let me give a little bit of your background. Kute is a beloved inspirational speaker and transformational teacher. He speaks at countless events he organizes around the world, as well as outside events, including A-Fest, YPO, Young Presidents Organization, and EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. He's a member of the Transformational Leadership Council, a select group of 100 of the world's foremost authorities in the personal development industry, winner of the 2019 Unity New Thought Walden Award. Blackson is widely considered a next generation leader in the field of personal development. His mission is simple: to awaken and inspire people across the planet to access inner freedom, live authentically, and fulfill their true life purpose. So definitely exciting to learn all of that, and I'm very fascinated about learning when people are into self-development and really what they do in that journey. Before we dive into that, though, tell me a little bit about your background. Where are you originally from? Where were you born, and how was that upbringing for you?
Sure. Look, I was born in Ghana, West Africa. My father's from Ghana. My mother's Japanese. I grew up in London, currently live in Los Angeles and partly Mexico, and ultimately all over the world.
Yeah.
So I feel like a citizen of the world, from everywhere and nowhere. A soul, ultimately. That's what I am. And so from a very young age, I felt a deep calling to serve people. I felt a deep inspiration. I was a very empathetic kid, so I would feel people's pain very deeply. And there was a part of me that always just wanted to alleviate suffering in some way. I didn't know what that would look like. I didn't know what form that would take, but I would feel people and I just wanted to help in some way. And so one of my first memories as a young boy growing up in London and Ghana, was seeing, also this really impacted me too, was seeing a crippled woman crawling on the floor, and she picks up the sand, literally the gravel that this man walks on, wipes it on her face and stands up. And so week after week, I grew up seeing blind people see and deaf people hear. And the same man who stands, she picked up would look at a woman in a wheelchair and say, "Hey, why are you in this wheelchair? You're not sick, stand up." And she would say, "But I haven't walked in 15 years. And he would say, like, stand up. And he would put his hands on them and they would stand up, call it a miracle. I would see people coming with crutches, or they weren't able to see. They didn't have sight, and he touched their eyes and sight was restored. This man was my father. He was considered the miracle man of Africa. He was the kind of spiritual teacher and guide to presidents and kings in sort of the African, continent. So I grew up in this, shall we say, somewhat unusual environment. And I say somewhat unusual because for me, it seemed normal. I didn't know anything else. It didn't seem strange for me. It's all I knew. I grew up with the sense of possibility, a sense that anything was possible. And so that was a blessing in and of itself. And so my father built 300 churches in Ghana, West Africa, and a huge church in London. South London, every Sunday we had about 4,000 to 5,000 people at his height. And so when I was age 8, my speaking career began. And I was thrown into the audience, and my father said, "Speak. My son's going to give the speech today." And that began my speaking career. And, every few weeks, every month, every few months, I was thrown into the audience and, had to speak. And so that began also an activation of a passion for growth and understanding, because on my father's bookshelf, and this is where my kind of self-help journey began, on his bookshelf he would literally had thousands of books, and books on psychology and spirituality and religion and mysticism and healing. And he went to India in the 60s, so he had these Eastern gurus to Western, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen, Dennis Waitley, Brian Tracy on his bookshelf as well, every possible author. And so I grew up as a kid devouring information and knowledge, and this was my hobby, my life. And so when I was 14, another pivotal moment in my life, I was ordained as a minister, and I was actually given the mandate. My father announces to the congregation, unbeknownst to me, that my son is taking over my ministry. He's my successor. And everyone looks at me, everyone's happy. The word spreads in Africa. Hundreds of thousands of people, have pinned their hopes on me. And I had no idea. And I knew in that moment that as much as I wanted to help people, as much as I wanted to inspire people, my heart sank, because a moment when something isn't quite in alignment with your truth. And I knew that this wasn't my path. But the truth is, I was too afraid to have the conversation with my father. I was too afraid to speak my truth. My fear was, if I dare to speak my truth, then I'm going to lose his love. And I think so many of us as human beings, we're afraid to be who we really are. We're afraid to pursue our dreams. We're afraid to go for that goal. We're afraid to, commit to that relationship, that vision, that idea that we've been given, because we're afraid of, we're afraid that we won't be loved. We're afraid that we'll be alone. We're afraid that we're going to fail. And so in so many ways, we allow fear to hijack us. And so for me, fear, I was terrified, basically.
Yeah. It took away the opportunity.
I was terrified of losing my father and being alone and being an outcast. And so I said nothing. And so for 4 years, I went through an inner questioning, an internal conflict, really an inner turmoil, depression, conflict, questioning, soul searching. Took me 4 years till I was 18, when I had to make some decisions. And another pivotal moment in my life where I realized I had to make some decisions. I looked into my future as an 18-year-old, and I saw that I chose not to go to university because I figured life had more to teach me. And so I looked into my future, and I saw that I could follow the expected path. And many of us, we take the path that is expected of us. I could follow the expected path and take over my father's ministry and be successful. But when I projected into my future, age 20, age 30, age 40, age 50, age 60, into my life, I saw that I was kind of committing a soul suicide, and I could be successful by everyone else's standards. But if I didn't have myself, if I didn't have my soul, if I didn't have my truth, if I didn't have my own integrity, then what kind of success is that? And that you can't be truly fulfilled and happy living someone else's life and being someone that you're not. And so I felt this calling to come to America and to go into the self-help field, the personal growth field 20 some years ago. And so that calling, it was such a strong call that pulled me, that was beyond logic, beyond understanding, but it pulled me. And I think sometimes what your soul guides you to do doesn't always make sense to your logic. What your soul guides you to do doesn't always make sense. It isn't always convenient. And so I felt called to come to America, come and find the authors that I studied with and read about, study with some of them, and go into this field. And so the challenge was, I had no money, no college degree, no support, knew no one in the country. And so I had to make a decision. And I think life is a process of decisions. And I made peace with the fact I may not have the relationship with my father, which was a deeply challenging moment of grieving. And I had that conversation with my father, and I told him I'm not taking over. And we didn't speak for 2 years. Sometimes people think that when you follow your purpose, life is easy, life unfolds. It's like all unicorns and violins. I think sometimes when you follow your purpose, that's when the challenges really begin. And many times people follow their purpose, they face the challenges, and then they turn back, and then they question themselves. They think that they're on the wrong path. But I think many times when you're facing the challenges in the pursuit of your purpose, you're actually on the right path. It's as though life is preparing you. Life is testing you so that you can develop the mental, the emotional, the spiritual muscle to be able to overcome. I mean, hey, you wrote the book, you can overcome anything. To be able to overcome these challenges prepares us to be able to become the person to live our purpose. And so I went through a lot of challenges. Cut a long story short, I ended up winning a green card in the green card, DV1 green card lottery. And that enabled me to come to the US, $800 in my pocket, 2 suitcases, knew no one in the country as a 19-year-old kid, and showed up in Los Angeles, the field of dreams, and went and found teachers and mentors and authors and many of the people I'd read, Jack Canfield, Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, and found them and studied with some of them. And then, longer story short, traveled the world, ended up going to walking the Camino, 900 kilometers in northern Spain. I ended up going to Thailand, studying with monks, going to Israel, studying with rabbis, really in search of answers. And really what kind of cracked me open was when I went to India. And I spent 3 to 4 months in India, just with a backpack, shaved my head, traveling temples and meeting with monks and meeting with enlightened beings, and just asking myself the question, who am I? And what is the purpose of life? I would look around and I'd see people in this rat race of life, chasing money, chasing success, chasing something that sometimes they didn't even know what the hell they were chasing. And I thought, is this life? Like, what is the purpose of life? Is it just to wake up, make money, have sex, make babies, go on vacation, have a mortgage, buy 2 cars, and then die? Like, surely there has to be more to life. And so I went on a quest in pursuit of these answers. And I found some answers in India for myself. And then I was guided to come back to LA. And that's when I started working with people one-on-one. And this was before the coaching industry was popular, 20 years ago, 21 years ago, and one-on-one, one-on-two. And before you know it, created my own way of working with people that I called uncoaching. And I had one person showing up, and it grew organically. One person came, transformed, next person came, transformed. Before you knew it, over the next months and years, people started flying from around the world to work with me one-on-one. And it just grew, one-on-one to 1-on-5 to 1-on-20 to 1-on-500, and 2 best-selling books, and here I am.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's amazing. I want to take it back a little bit, and I like the you've obviously been all over the place, and you had some amazing background. Well, growing up, so you grew up in Africa, right?
Africa and London.
Okay, got you. Yeah. So how long you pretty much in London? You were there until what age?
Until 18. So I was in Ghana. I was in Ghana till age 3, and then my father was the spiritual teacher to the president of Ghana.
That's the reason why you guys moved.
Because they killed the president. It was a coup, and then they were looking for my father because my father was the closest guy. And life is very unusual. Sometimes we have our plans, and life has other plans. By luck, in quotation marks, my father happened to be in London, and they killed the president while he was in London. Then they started looking for my father, and he wasn't there, so he couldn't come back to Ghana. So it was like a political asylum kind of situation. My mother and I, my Japanese, this is in the late 70s. She's in a foreign country, in a 4th world nation, right? And so we had to get smuggled out of Ghana to London, and then we couldn't go back for about 5 years. So it was pretty intense.
Got it. So, and obviously, talking about your calling, do you feel like your calling had a lot to do with the fact that, obviously, you said you saw so many different miracles? It could also be the challenges that perhaps your dad and your mom have went through, right? Up until they met up, and even through your earlier years. Do you think that a lot of that had to do with that too? Seeing yourself in their eyes, or their experiences, that you said, I have more to give or more to provide, you had this calling of doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, look, for me, the calling, I didn't know what form it would take, but I felt a nudge inside of myself to like, I felt the sense like my life was more than just my life. There was something I was here to give. Somewhere I was meant to inspire and impact and transform and do something for people. And so, for me, it wasn't a pre-planned situation. It was just organically following the flow of life. And all I knew at 18 was I was meant to come to America. All I knew at 18 was I wanted to go into this field of self-help and write books, because I'd been reading books, and books had impacted my life. Stephen Covey, Marianne Williamson, Deepak Chopra. I mean, the list, Dan Millman, the list goes on. And books on creative visualization and metaphysics. And I mean, this was my love. And I thought, wow, if I can just write some books and inspire people, I would love to do this. And so when I read like Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen, these motivational speakers, it was the first time as a kid that I thought, wow, there's other ways than the church or an organization. These people are doing it in seminar rooms. These people are doing it in ballrooms. It's not religious. Everyone is invited. And that lit me up. And that was another clue on the path. I think many times we look to try to figure out our purpose. And I tell people that stop trying. If you want to find your purpose, stop trying to find your purpose. Seeking your purpose can sometimes be the ego's way of avoidance, because all the time we spend seeking our purpose, we are busy not living it. We're busy in the pursuit of it. And so the ego's job, the ego being our perceived sense of self, its job is to seek and seek and seek and seek and never find. That's the job of the ego. So it doesn't really want to find, because one of the things that keeps the ego in existence is to seek. And so if you want to find your purpose, your true calling in life, simply stop seeking. And I tell people, just go in the direction. Just take a step in the direction of what turns you on. Take a step in the direction of what lights you up. Take a step in the direction of what inspires you. You don't have to know all the steps, and you don't have to know where you're going in order to get to exactly where you need to be. There is a part of you, your soul, that knows. It has an intelligence. It knows. Many times our mind doesn't know, and we try to figure everything out, and we cannot figure life out from here. And so I tell people, take a step. Take a step. For me, as an example, we lived behind my father's church. We didn't have a lot of money. And as a kid, my bedroom was the size of like an average bathroom in a house, in an apartment. It was tiny, right? Fit my bed in it. And my dreams were so big of inspiring people and impacting people, yet my reality was so limited. And so what I would do is I'd read these self-help books, for 2 hours after school, do my homework. And then I would sneak into my father's church. I would sneak into my father's church with the lights off. And there were like 500 chairs, in one of his churches. And with the lights off in the pitch black, as a 12, 13-year-old kid, I would give seminars to the empty chairs, imagining thousands of people being inspired, imagining thousands of people, connecting, laughing, clapping. And they weren't there. They were in my imagination. But in a sense, this was my passion. My passion was speaking. And so I was doing it for free for literally 10 years before anyone even paid me. And so I would do that for free. And so if you want to find your true calling, your true purpose, not what you think you should be doing, is go in the direction of what turns you on, what makes you most alive. Then, number two, ask yourself, what tangible, specific skills do you have? Because it's great to love something, but you have to have a specific skill. And many times we don't acknowledge the skills we have because we're naturally good at them. And I believe that every single thing that you have done, every single job, every single experience, everything is part of the preparation for you to live your true calling in life. There are certain jobs that sometimes we're forced to do, that life forces us to do, that we don't understand why we're doing them. But usually, if we do them with excellence and we commit 100% and we trust the process, there's things that we're meant to learn, specific tangible skills that we're meant to learn doing that thing that we're going to need. Maybe it's accounting, maybe it's sales, maybe it's negotiation, and maybe that's not your true calling, but the skills you need there that you're going to be able to use in living your true calling. So what is it that you love? What specific tangible skills do you actually have? And I would tell people, number three, ask yourself, what problems are you uniquely gifted and able to solve? A lot of times in the consideration of one's purpose and calling, people often reflect on, how do I make money? Nothing wrong with making money. But I tell people, first ask yourself, Not how do you make money, but how can you be of service? How can you be of service, and what unique problems are you able to truly solve? Money is a function of adding value, and you add value when you solve a pain, problem, or challenge. And so when you're truly being of service, you're adding value. When you're adding value, you're solving a pain, problem, or challenge. And so when we really focus on what pain, problems, or challenges can I solve by being of service, that also points us in the direction of our true authentic calling. And lastly, I invite people to ask themselves, which group of people do I feel a connection to, an affinity to? Because maybe I feel a connection to, the elderly. I feel a connection to teenage kids. And so I feel a connection to blind people. And so maybe someone, you feel a connection to teenage pregnant mothers, or incarcerated teenagers, or, the elderly. I believe that we have a soul connection with these group of people, because that might point us in the direction of who we are also meant to serve. And so I think many times we're looking for a big calling, we want to do these big things, huge things, but we don't freaking start where we are, And so, I tell people, if you want to do big things, look around your life and start where you are by simply responding to the need in the moment. Because if you can't help one, how do you help 10? If you can't help 10, how do you help 100? If you can't help 100, how do you help 1,000? You can't help 1,000, how do you help 1,000,000? And sometimes we're so focused on the big impact that we don't respond to the need right now. And by responding to the need right now, life gives us more. And so I think our purpose is not something, and calling is not something we have to figure out. Our purpose is something that we just end up living into in the process of living life. And so when you take that step and you go in the direction, you take that one step, life then reveals to you the next. You take that next step, life then reveals to you the next. And your calling and purpose is revealed to you in the process of life.
Yeah, no, and that I definitely love those different 4 steps that you talked about. And again, being around and seeing people that, again, they're looking for that purpose, or my why, or how did I get this? And you're right. You can definitely get lost on the search of that, and then at the end of the day, you don't find that, right? What if, though, along those lines, you said, we'll just take that first step, whatever that might be, just take one step. What if that step is not the right step, right? Because sometimes you can be so much in your head that you're thinking, well, this is where I need to go. Because I've seen it too, where you start doing okay, well, I think I need to be, I need to be in business, doing real estate, or I need to be, and then, or no, let me join an MLM. No, let me join this whole stuff. And then before you know it, you've stretched yourself too much because you felt like you had to go this direction.
Yeah,
you took a step there, and then you went to this one or this one, and you have 3 or 4 different directions.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things I'll say. Number one, rather than just operating out of ego, because many times people are trying to figure out their calling on their purpose out of ego.
Okay.
Yeah. And so let's say you join an MLM. The MLM is not your purpose. That is a job. That is a function. So there is a difference between, let's say, real estate and your purpose. Real estate is just a vehicle for you to make money and add value to people's lives. It's just a vehicle that gives you the opportunity, but that's not your purpose. So let me just distinguish. You can live your purpose no matter what it is you're doing. Real estate is what you're doing. Your purpose is what you're being, and what you're bringing to the moment is who you're being and the gifts you are giving, no matter what you're doing. So you can be living your purpose as a trash collector. You can be living your purpose as a grocery store, checkout person. Sometimes people say, I can't live my purpose because I'm working in freaking Ralph's and I hate. You'll never really truly live your purpose if you do a shitty job at Ralph's. So what does that mean? If you're working a job that you hate, you're working a job that you don't love, but you might say, but I got to pay the bills. Fair enough. 2 things I would say. Number one, make sure that so I ask people that are working jobs they hate, what did you do today towards your true purpose? Nothing. How much time did you spend today towards well, nothing, but you watch Netflix. Well, yeah, if you have time to watch Netflix, you have time to, so if you're working a job you hate, then make sure you're devoting time, 3-4 hours a day, 7, 8, 9 hours on the weekends towards the creation of what you love, towards the creation of your purpose, of what lights you up. If you don't know what your purpose is, make sure that your purpose becomes creating those 2-3 hours a day, those 2 hours a day to freaking sit there in a tent, whatever it takes, in a parking lot in downtown LA, and you don't move until you sit and you meditate and you listen to your soul. Many times we say, I don't know what my purpose is, but we're so busy distracting ourselves, hanging out here, hanging out with toxic people, watching TV, scrolling an hour on social media. If we took that hour and just sat and just listened, and reflected, what is my purpose? And we listen. What is my purpose? And we listen. What am I here to do? And we listen. Then we would receive guidance. We would receive information. And so if you're working a job that you hate, make sure you're spending time to either figure out what your purpose is, or you're spending time to create a step towards your purpose. That's one. If you're working a job that is not your purpose, make sure that you do the job where you are with profound excellence. Do it where you are with profound excellence. And no matter what you're doing, you can still live your purpose through what it is that you're doing. So if you're at Ralph's working in the checkout, when that person comes, you can still love them. You can still bless them. You want to inspire people on stage. You want to inspire people, you want to inspire people as a motivational speaker. Well, motivate the people that come through your checkout stand. Start there. Just begin where you are and do what's in front of you with excellence. And then life opens up the next step. Because for instance, if you want to be a motivational speaker, and for anyone who's listening, you got to be a motivational person. And if you want to be a motivational speaker, you got to be a motivational person. And you might as well use life as your stage to prepare so that when your opportunity comes, you're actually ready. And so that's one thing I would say. Now, in terms of, and so when you really take a moment to sit and you feel what is most true, that's many times we're deciding on what to do. MLM, follow this scheme, do this thing, sell cars, do this, do that. And it's not really, we're deciding from the ego, we're deciding from the mind. And so, yes, I understand there's things we need to do to make a living, to pay the bills, fair enough. But what I would say is this, there's no mistakes in life. You can't screw up God's plan for your life. You're not that powerful. Every step that you take is part of the journey of growth. Every step that you take and every experience that you live, there are lessons that your soul is needing to learn where you are with whom you're with. So there's no such thing as failure. Ultimately, there's only not learning the lessons. And so if you go into a business or you go into a situation and you realize, this isn't it, the key thing is not, I failed. The key thing is, what did I learn? And what did my soul need to learn through this experience? And how can I use this experience to grow, to learn, and evolve? Life is a process of evolution. As souls, first and foremost, we're souls. We incarnate into this human experience in order to learn, to grow, and evolve. Every single situation, every single relationship, every single experience is part of the evolutionary lesson. It's like life is the university for our soul's growth and evolution. And if that's the case, then everyone is our teacher and classroom is always in session. And so you can't really make a mistake. You can only just use the experience as an opportunity to learn and to grow. And likely that lesson and that learning will prepare you. I'll give you an example. When I first came to the US, I thought, I needed to make some money. I was a young kid and I went and sold cars. I sold cars 2 weekends in a row in a tent. I think it was Cerritos, okay? In Cerritos, in a car tent sale. I don't know if you've ever been to a car tent sale, but man, it's hard. It's hard. It's intense. And so 2 weekends, I made like $1,500 in a weekend commission. Wasn't bad, but my soul, what got clear for me was my soul was so dead. What got clear for me when I was selling, I was making, for a 19-year-old kid, $1,500 in 2-3 days, not bad. But what got clear for me in that process is, this is not my true expression. I'm glad I did it, but there were certain things I learned in the few weeks that I did that really impacted me in terms of the ability to communicate, the ability to sell, the ability to, there were so many little things that I learned, even in the couple of weekends I did the car sales, tent sale experience. And so I think there's always things we can learn where we are.
Yeah. And one thing that what you're saying, and I always tell people the same thing, is that if you're working for profits, you're doing it wrong. You have to be working for purpose. And that's how at least I see it. Because I think a lot of people get into a business or something for the money, right? And again, yes, we do need money to get around. We do need money to do certain things in life. Except again, you have those people that have these jobs and are going to these jobs that they hate just because, and they're only there because they're making whatever amount of money, right? And so I always tell people that if you're doing it for the profits, you're doing it wrong. You got to do it for the purpose, and that purpose is kind of like what you're saying. It's like searching that, what is that one thing you want to do in life, whatever that might be, right? And so to me, very similar as you have the things that I've aligned myself with is being able to, for me, it's three things, right? Is being able to motivate, is being able to inspire, and is able to empower people in many different aspects. And similar to you, finding that calling to say, I want to be able to do this and help people out in different areas. I think for me and for many other people, I would say is really that, is being able to find that there's something bigger here than just yourself. And I think when you recognize that, then there's a bigger opportunity for you to do different things in life, right?
Yeah, one thing that I would like to add for people listening is sometimes people think, oh, I have to be a coach, I have to be a teacher, I have to be this, I have to be that. And I think that in terms of having impact, sometimes having impact is not just what you do, it's who you're being. And just even, okay, being a real estate agent, but being a freaking kind person, and just living that kindness in your life has impact. And that is living true purpose, because you can have profound impact in how you live and people experiencing who you're being just by how you live your life. That is everything. And I think many times people underestimate that. And it's not that you shouldn't write a book or you shouldn't speak or you shouldn't, but how you live your life and how you treat those around you. Because also, through example, you never know who's watching you. You never know who's observing you. You never know who is inspired by you. You never know how your example is going out and impacting people and the ripples it creates.
Right.
And so that's why I just want to really reinforce your calling, your purpose is not just what you do, it's how you're being and how you live. That's the foundation.
Yeah, definitely. If people wanted to connect with you, where can they find you?
Sure. I mean, it's pretty easy. I'm all over the internet. So a couple of ways. Number one, my website, kuteblackson.com, KUTEBLACKSON, my name, kuteblackson.com. If people really are serious in terms of transforming their life, twice a year, I do a very special transformational, should we say, immersive event in Bali. It's for leaders and visionaries that are committed to, let's say, freeing themselves of past limitations, connecting with their true power, and sharing their gifts with the world. They can find out more. We do it July and December. www.boundlessblissbali.com. That's boundlessblissbali.com. Instagram, Facebook, my name, Kute Blackson. Where else? My new book is The Magic of Surrender. They can get that on Amazon. Check it out there. And say hi.
Yeah, awesome, definitely. And I want to talk about that. That's the next thing, is the magic of surrender. Because that's one thing you definitely want to leave with the listeners to listen and take on. Can you elaborate more on that? Because when people believe, and I have a different opinion of surrender, I think it's very similar to what you're talking about. I said, when people think about surrender, they think about giving up. They think about that said, I'm done, right? I think of surrendering as not giving up. I think of surrender as accepting, understanding, finding ways, doing different things. It gives me the ability to start seeing things from a different perspective. Except I want to take your point on the magic of surrender and how that helps you in your life, in your journey, in your challenges throughout life.
Yeah, I think, in our culture today, we have this false perception that surrender is weak, that surrender is passive, that surrender is giving up, is waving the white flag, that if you surrender, you're going to get left behind, you're going to be a doormat, you're going to be a victim, you're going to be trodden on, you're going to be taken advantage of, that you won't manifest your goals, dreams, or desires, or that you'll get less. And I'm actually saying, what if you surrender and you didn't get less, but what if you truly surrendered, and you got more than you could have planned, more than you could have imagined, more than you could have visualized for yourself? And so just to clarify, that surrender is a letting go of control, or I should say the illusion of control, the illusion that we're in control, because in many ways we think that we're in control, but we're not as in control as we thought. I mean, if you look at the last few years, 2020 pandemic, we thought, yeah, here we boom, everything crashed, and we weren't as in control as we thought. And so I think it's and control is the master addiction. And so it's letting go of control. It's a letting go of trying to force and manipulate life to fit our limited idea of how we think it should be, because many times we have these rigid, limited ideas based on our ego's, concept and conditioning of how we think life should be, how we think a relationship should be. And so surrender is to let go of the idea of who we think we are, or who we think we should be, and the idea of how we think our life should be, so that we can truly just be open and available to the authentic life, the authentic unfolding, the authentic expression of life that is actually seeking to happen. And so I think that, if you look at any of the great ones, the truly great ones, Jesus, Buddha, Gandhi, Bruce Lee, Muhammad Ali, Bob Marley, Mother Teresa, Mandela, Martin Luther King, at any great one, at some point, they had to surrender themselves to a purpose that was bigger than themselves. They had to surrender themselves to life. They had to surrender themselves to the universe. They had to surrender themselves to their true calling. And I think when we truly surrender ourselves, we make ourselves available. When we truly surrender ourselves, we transcend our own ego's limited capacity to manifest our lives, and we open to infinite possibilities. And that's when life, can use us. Life can flow through us. Life can manifest through us. And that's the magic. And so to me, the way I see the world moving right now, we're shifting from an old paradigm. The old paradigm has been, in terms of, even in self-help, like make it happen, make your life happen, like force, boom, hustle, make it happen, crush it, just go. And it's very much an ego-based model of creating life and making things happen with your own willpower. Now, you can manifest that way. You can create a good life that way. But I think it's only through surrender that you can create a great life, because creating from the ego, you might get what you thought you wanted, only to realize that what you thought you wanted was just what you thought you wanted based on who you thought you were. It wasn't what you really thought you wanted. And many times, see, we project and we set goals based on unmet needs from our childhood. Dad didn't love us. We felt unworthy. We felt not enough. We felt unlovable. So if I can just achieve that Oscar, if I can just be number one, if I can just get that Lamborghini, if I can just, experience that thing, then I'm going to be enough. And we achieve it, and it doesn't satisfy us, because what we're seeking is something deeper, And so in surrender, there's a different question. The question isn't just, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? The I that we think we are. In the path of surrender, the question becomes a different question, an infinite question, a question of, well, what is it that life is seeking to express through me? What is it that the universe is seeking to express through me? And allowing ourselves to listen to that, to attune to that, to feel that, to connect with it, so that we're not just running around going, I'm going to do this MLM, I'm going to do this thing. No, that's from the ego. Like, what is the true expression of what my soul, what life is seeking to express? And aligning with that. And when we truly align with what's true, when we truly align with what's authentic, then we're in the flow. And that's when life supports us. And to me, that's what it is to live in surrender. Yeah. So surrender is not like you sit there and do nothing. When you align with what's authentic, then you align your personality, your mind, your thoughts, your visualizations, your money, your marketing, your resources. Now you're taking action, but in alignment with truth, in alignment with what's real and what's authentic. And that's That's the key.
Yeah, no, I definitely love that. I have two last questions for you. Number one is, do you have any habits or rituals that you do on a day-to-day basis to keep you going in this positive state of mind?
Yeah, I think one is just a simple physical one is I exercise every day. And
Okay.
that sounds simple, but it's really non-negotiable. I think if you move your body, it sets the foundation for just moving energy, processing feelings and emotions. That's a daily non-negotiable. The other one is, there's other things I do, but just to kind of make it practical, the other one is I really focus on my breath
Okay.
and
So you do
just,
breath work?
it's not even just breath work. It's just throughout the day, just bringing my attention to my breath.
Gotcha.
Because when your attention is on your breath, then you're also present in the moment, because the breath connects you to the moment. And that's living moment to moment with awareness through the breath is a simple practice. And I think so much of suffering comes because we go into the future and we're creating a negative future fantasy about what's going to happen in the future, or we're in the past, stressing about the past, living in guilt, living in stuff, living in stories about the past, what we should have done, what we should have been, what should have happened, and then we're not here right now. And so when we're really connected to the breath, we're in the moment, we're in the now, we're in the present. And most of the time, when we're just here right now, things are fine.
Yeah, I definitely love that. The last question I have for you is for the people that are listening to us and watching us. You've already given us a lot of great tips and things that we can start doing already. For the people that are going through any challenge, whatever challenge that might be, what is one thing that they can start doing now to start overcoming that challenge?
I might give two things, but one I would say is if you're going through a challenge right now, congratulations, you are alive. Likely, if you're not going through challenges, you're playing too small, you're too comfortable. Because if you go to the gym, you don't go to the gym to sleep and lie down and be comfortable and take a nap. You go to the gym to challenge yourself, and then you lift the weight and you shake. You're like, 10 more reps. And it's like, it's a challenge. Life is a challenge. So don't pray for the challenges to get easier. Instead, work to develop your mental, emotional capacity to expand and deal with bigger challenges. If you look at big wave surfers, Laird Hamilton, Kelly Slater, these guys that go for 100-foot waves, the better they get, do they chase smaller waves? No, the better they get, they go seek out the bigger challenges. And so life is constant challenge. And when we understand the nature of life, there will be challenges. The challenges won't stop. We are here to face those challenges because challenges are how we learn, we grow and evolve. It's just a process of evolution. Then when you reframe your relationship to challenges as something bad, instead as something, as an opportunity to grow and evolve, then it's like the ocean. You're surfing in the ocean. Then you can embrace those challenges as a blessing and as a gift. And when you stop resisting those challenges, like, it shouldn't be happening, the experience I'm having is not the experience I should be having. I shouldn't be having this challenge right now. Then that activates your ability and resource inside to deal with it. So those challenges become a blessing. Those challenges, you start thanking those challenges. Thank you, challenge, because this challenge, you are forcing me to tap into another part of myself that I'm not accessing right now. And then your relationship with challenges changes, and it ceases to become something bad and it becomes something beautiful. And then you embrace it, then you thrive and you keep growing. And so congratulations, you would not be facing this challenge if you weren't ready. And many times we face a challenge because we have reached the end of a cycle, the end of a phase. And that challenge is just like a test in your, university or high school. You do your SATs to go to, university. The challenge is the test so that you can put into practice everything that you've learned up until that phase so that you can graduate to the next level. So when you are in the midst of a challenge, usually it means you're right on the verge of a breakthrough to your next level, where now you get to implement what you've learned so you can transcend to that next level. So know you are on the right path.
I love it. I love it. Definitely, that's a golden nugget there for sure. And I never seen anybody put it that way. And you're right. I mean, if you have a challenge, congratulations. That is amazing. Thank you again for being here. Is there anything else you want to say before I let you go?
No, just would love to connect with anyone that feels inspired. And it was great being here.
Yeah, definitely. Now, are you having any kind of a speaking engagements coming up anywhere near?
Yeah, I mean, most of my events are online, so just go
Okay.
to my website, kuteblackson.com, and check out my events there.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate
Thanks
your
for having
presence.
me.
And yeah, for the rest of you guys, do me a favor. Go ahead and check out Cute. Go to his website. Go to Amazon. Get his book. And also do me a favor. Share this message because definitely somebody needs to hear this, and it can definitely help and impact somebody else's lives. I'll see you guys the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.